You know, there's all these stories about, guys over in Macedonia who are running these fake news sites.
Number 24 is Content Farms in Macedonia.
Бидејќи ако се направи грешка, таа ќе биде кобна. Нема враќање назад.
So Europe need to remain more sexy lady in the world.
Ајде, мајката!
Господа ја чува Македонија и низините граѓани.
What did I not see in the month of June in Estonia and Latvia over 2 weeks?
Short pants, summer dresses.
No, everybody wears short pants.
Okay.
A pride flag.
Really?
Yes. Do you know why? Because they suffered 50 years under Soviet communism, and they know a despicable ideology when they see it. And they have no desire to import that into their countries. Yeah. Not a single... The last day I was in Estonia, I was at a brewery for a good IPA, and they were, frequented by tourists, and there was one idiot foreigner with a pride hat.
Okay.
But obviously a foreigner, so...
Yeah.
But not a single pride flag anywhere to be seen. It was glorious.
Yeah,
so.
I was in Vienna, and I think they don't have the pride flag only on, the actual gay clubs. It's on everything else. It's on the oldest church in the city, on the St. Rupert. It's on the trams. The Winter Palace has the old pride flag. I was joking, like it's the conservative, the traditionalist pride flag. But then in the palace of Prince Eugen of Savoy, the Belvedere Palace, they have the newest one, the one with the triangle with all the up to and probably including pedophilia. So
yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's minor attracted persons. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, the Drake illness.
Yes. Oh, good Lord. Well, you guys are fighting it, but I don't know about the U.S. Embassy in Estonia or Latvia or Lithuania. They may have had it. I don't know. I try to avoid those places like the plague. So, but
maybe they give Estonia a pass on the count of being anti-Russian, but everybody else has to have.
It's something else there at work. But anyway, everybody well? Family well?
Good. Yeah, doing fine in this heat. But yeah, we said we're not discussing heat with a heat expert here.
Yes. So the pastor at my church yesterday said, in the summer months I normally don't preach about hell because it feels like hell. So okay, let's. You got the notes.
Yep.
So
as if we need notes, we're gonna wing this.
Yeah, I know. True. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna start. We gotta have an intro here, so we'll go in 3, 2, 1. As we record this up on Monday, July 8, a few days after the USA's 248th birthday and after the Tories in the UK got stomped, we pause to reflect on the first nearly 2 weeks of the new government in Macedonia led by VMRO. How are they doing? What are they doing? What does the public think? We also discuss the new, quote, leader, unquote, of Cvetin, Miko, the continuing lectures from the US and EU ambassadors, and how various events happening in July, and there are a lot of them, might affect things in Macedonia. We'll discuss all of this and more on this episode of the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast. I'm Jason Miko, coming to you from the foot of the Catalina Mountains in Oro Valley, Arizona.
And this is Cvetin in Skopje, Macedonia.
Yes, and I see from the news, speaking of the new government, that they are now in Washington, D.C. for the NATO summit, the Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister, the Defense Minister, the Speaker of Parliament.
And the Interior Minister.
Is anybody left?
And the Interior Minister, Pancho.
Is anybody left in Skopje? The President, okay. The NATO summit is I mentioned in the monologue there, the first, lots of events in July, and the NATO summit is this week. Just to throw things in the mix here real quick, with events in Macedonia and events around the world, the NATO summit and our vegetable, who is the President of the United States, how he's going to do. He's digging his feet in. Just sent a letter around to Congress this morning, and again, today is Monday, July 8, episode 176 of the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast. he sent a letter to the Democrat members of Congress saying he ain't going anywhere. He's sticking around. So
Yeah. I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
None of you seem to understand. I'm not locked in here with you. That's it! You're locked in here with me!
Yes, indeed. That's a good one. I forgot about that one. So we'll see how he's going to have to do, a press conference at the NATO summit. He's going to have to talk to world leaders. He's going. It's going to be, it's a slow-moving train wreck. But let's start with.
We try to pull a prank on him, like we say we're Montenegro or Moldova, or insist that we haven't changed the name to North Macedonia. So.
What was the NATO? Oh no, it wasn't NATO. It was Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, a few months ago sent around something to NATO with all the flags of the NATO countries except for Macedonia. It was
the northern
Marianas Islands. Yes.
Yeah.
So, anyway, okay. So let's start with the Macedonian government. 2 weeks, just about. So they're still literally getting settled with appointing various. They've got the ministers in place, and so how does it shake out with we've got VMRO, we've got Znam, we've got Vlen, basically the three major blocks that are the government. What's the division?
I mean, VMRO and Znam are doing well in the sense that VMRO is giving the usual people we kind of expected to see in government. These are the same people who were announced before the previous elections. So no big surprises here. They're holding strong on the Albanians, so they're giving like a proper, decent share of government to the Albanians, but much less than the excesses of the SDSM DUI government, or in the end it was DUI SDSM government, where SDSM gave away the farm to the Albanians. So on these items, VMRO are doing okay. They're doing the usual VMRO things like bringing immediately some new investment. We don't really have any more available unemployed workers, blue-collar workers we could open factories for. So the focus now is on large energy projects such as wind farms and that's the one big investment so far, and some smaller factories. They began to reinstall the iron fence around the government, so like doing away with some of the few symbolic moves SDSM did to try to show they're different with Gruevski when they removed this fence to say the government is open. VMRO is now putting it back because it actually looks stupid, but also to say, look, we are back in charge in a visible way. The big concession, the big fumble, and I think it was in our last episode, I think it was before the inauguration, I was still announcing that President Siljanovska did not use the N-word in her oath of office. I was adamant that Mickoski will not do it, and he caved. He made a big climb down, and it was like, well, I never said we are going to violate the constitution. We're not going to use the name. It's a shameful name. I consider it a shameful adjective, but we have to follow the law, the constitution, and he used it. He said North Macedonia in the oath of office, placating Greece, immediately receiving very enthusiastic praise from Ambassador Aguilar, and she gave him a big concession in that she was we had Ahmeti, we had Dui insisting that they should be in the government, that the government lacks Albanian legitimacy, and she said, well, no, I mean, it's up to the government, it's up to the prime minister to decide who will he have in the coalition. She began to explain how the other party, the Albanian party that's in the government, is also, proper Albanian party. So she practically threw Ahmeti down the bus and then got Mickoski to say the N-word. This is the deal VMRO made with the embassy. They tested it further, so they said our next for our next trick, we're going to dismantle the Judicial Council. We have all these diplomats and all our people, the public, telling us that the judiciary is ridiculously corrupt and unfunctional. It has like 2% rating or 4%, I don't know. So we're going to change the way in which we elect the Judicial Council, and this will prompt their resignations, will practically remove all the DUI and SDSM appointees to the council, and then they will maybe start replacing the judges, or the judges will just get the hint and start prosecuting, giving verdicts like they should, not as SDSM and DUI will ask them to. So this was the second big request Mickoski made, and this immediately prompted Ageler to turn on him. She led all the other diplomats to the Judicial Council to meet with a puppet who was appointed by SDSM, but is effectively now openly coordinating with the diplomats, to say that she is like the best head of the Judicial Council we've ever had, that she's already working on restoring justice. This kind of looked like the early stages of the Colored Revolution, when the diplomats would go to the government together, all the EU and the US diplomat, issuing orders to Gruevski. Mickoski reacted very angrily. He was like passively aggressive. Well, if they have a better idea, let's hear it. Well, they should know that I got, like, the government has 600,000 votes. He's counting all the parties in the government. So yeah, it's they're testing each other, and one big win for VMRO with the Albanians, with Ahmeti, not receiving international support, going in new position peacefully, and one big concession to the Greeks in the use of the N-word.
Interesting. Okay, that's a good sit-rep situation report. Again, like I said, we're only 2 weeks into the new government. They're already on their first foreign trip to Washington, D.C. for the NATO summit. You made a good analysis there, I think, and you know, they're kind of, they, meaning the government and, let's just say, the Western ambassadors, are kind of probing each other to see, you know, where the weak points, strong points, etc. What are they? You mentioned up front there, you said they've already brought a few investments, which, you know, that's something that takes a long time, especially foreign investments. They've announced something that's coming later, or what were you referring to specifically?
Well, the two big ones are they have a deal with an unspecified EU and NATO member country to loan us, government to government, €1 billion. It's certainly going to be Hungary. Nobody else would do this. Obviously negotiated while VMRO was still in opposition, but with clear polls, and clearly had the letter of intent all signed up. We're expecting Orban to come here as soon as he's done with bringing peace to Ukraine and China and North Korea. No, but he's very interesting, very, very active. I love all this campaign.
Well, no, he's been in. He was in Russia. Is he going to China too?
He's in China now, and he's now going to Mar-a-Lago. I guess he'll first go to Washington, ask Biden to step down for the sake of, he'll probably make a statement like this, obviously I support Trump. Look at this turnip they have as president right now. And he's going to the US, but he's in China now. He's calling this another part of his peace mission. Obviously linking it with Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah, he's literally doing a round the world trip. If you look at the Earth and follow his path if he's going from China, then he's obviously coming to the West Coast and then DC and Mar-a-Lago, etc. I mean, wonderful, admirable to want peace. I'm a conservative and a realist, and I don't, the history of the world is mostly war, not peace, and that's just the way it is. Good luck to him on that, but I don't think peace is coming anytime soon anywhere. Especially France after the second round of elections there, when the anti-Semite far left is in control now, and the anti-Semite far left is in control of Britain now as well. So
Yeah. The Nazis lost. The Nazis, making quotation marks, lost in France, and the Jews are panicking and preparing to leave. To run away from the anti-fascists.
Yeah, I mean, as well as they should. I mean, it's funny how, not funny. It's interesting how the mainstream media, politicians, bureaucrats, think tanks, etc., academics, all refer to the right in France or in the UK as far right, or in Macedonia, of course, as far right, and never the left as far left. It's always the left, the party of the left, etc. It's just, and it's just, they're full of it.
Yeah. And the far right is like taking the positions of Barack Obama in his first term, or maybe the primaries.
Yeah, I was going to say Reagan, but you know,
no,
the far right
this is France. They're not touching entitlements, pensions, nothing like that.
Yeah,
this is why she was complaining on what was it, on CNN with Amanpour. She said, "Dude, come on, I'm like a centrist in the U.S. and technically she's correct. Like she's really honestly on guns, on entitlements, on the economy. She's definitely like a liberal." Rhino Republican at best, like probably.
Sorry, who's this?
Le Pen.
Le Pen, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine what passes for economic right in France. I mean, it's extremely extremely weak version of republicanism, maybe.
Yeah, the right. I think the center right parties, or the far right, according to the mainstream media, in Europe are on economic issues are very much, you know, the cradle to grave social welfare state. Nowhere they're nowhere near Hayek or Milton Friedman or even Ronald Reagan on that. But on social issues, especially on the number one issue I think in Europe right now seems to be illegal immigration. First, immigration in general. And Islamicism, if not out just Islam. Islam, of course, I think, I'm convinced Islam's part of the problem in the world today, not Islamicism. Islam. I know a lot of the people that we that follow on Twitter and they follow us would disagree with us, but oh well. I did want to point out on the inward thing. It's interesting to me just looking at it, both for the president and the prime minister in Macedonia. How they're getting hit from both the Greeks from the Greeks, the Bulgarians, as well as the EU and U.S. ambassadors, because sometimes, you know, the president signed the oath of office with the N-word in it. Mickoski said it verbally, and of course, I'm sure he signed an oath of office. Yeah. But he's also saying just Macedonia in his everyday usage, which is why the Greeks aren't going to be happy with him no matter what. As well as the Greeks and the Bulgarians aren't going to be happy with any Macedonian government unless they fully capitulate to the to the Greeks and the Bulgarians. And of course, we just had the Bulgarian elections at the beginning of June. Is Boyko Borisov the prime minister there now?
He won, but they're now trying to form like a coalition with the Turkish party. Somebody's trying to dismantle the Turkish party. I'm guessing Boyko, but it doesn't help him much because he needs their votes. So something is happening with this party there, which should influence him forming or not forming a government. There is move with one of the liberal parties, maybe joining him, or the old socialist party. So he's looking into different options to form a government, but still no deal. The big movement here in this issue was that there was the census in Albania, and about like 10,000 Macedonians, which we would usually get, or even more, counted as ethnic Macedonians. And you know, we're skipping a country, like it's Bulgaria, then Macedonia, then Albania for our listeners who are not Balkan experts, even though I don't know who would listen to us if they're not a Balkan expert. So it's natural just to think that there would be no Bulgarians in Albania, just Macedonians. So we went from like 15,000 Macedonians in Albania to I think like 2,000 or 3,000 Macedonians and 7,000 Bulgarians.
Wow.
So there was massive influence, massive campaign by the Bulgarian diplomats in Albania to get Macedonians there. And, these are extremely poor people, like Albania was extremely poor. And Macedonians as neglected and discriminated against in Albania were even more poorer than Albanians. So many of these people, Macedonians there would, are very eager to get like an EU passport. So they would have applied for a Bulgarian passport. And Bulgaria apparently told them, those of you who have one, we are taking it away. Those of you who are applying, you're going to be blocked unless you register in the coming census as Bulgarians and you give us the receipts. And Mickoski had a funny quip, which I haven't seen him do much comedy, honestly. He said now that there are like 7,000 Bulgarians in Albania, but only I think like 2,000-3,000 Bulgarians in Macedonia, that Bulgaria should now extend its demands against Albania and demand that Albania changes its constitution and includes the Bulgarian minority there. So that was a funny new twist in this whole pitiful, sorry debate. They were using tablets to count the applicants. So the Macedonian parties in Albania are saying that it was the Bulgarian diplomats coming with a tablet and like controlling the process to the point like they were like the census takers with the approval of the Albanian government, which obviously loves to see that one of the bigger minorities they have divides itself in two halves, so they're not dealing with one large Macedonian or even one large Bulgarian group, but two divided minority groups. So this is the big issue. Obviously, this is the result of unprecedented moves by SDSM, who were attacking Gruevski's campaign to give like scholarships and passports to the Macedonians in Albania. SDSM arrested the mayor of Pustac, Edmond Temelko. They charged him with helping, having, once they would get a Macedonian citizenship, the Macedonians in Albania would come and vote in Macedonia in general, but also in local elections. So SDSM strongly protested to this latter part. There is a similar campaign against Vucic now when he's having Bosnian Serbs vote for him in the local elections. So they actually very brutally attacked in the media Macedonians coming from Albania as rural, VMRO supporters, stuff like that. And they arrested the mayor. So, we did this largely to ourselves, or SDSM did this to us. And, people in Bulgaria are celebrating that Bulgarians in Albania have awoken and are reasserting their Bulgarian identity. So this is the big development on Macedonia-Bulgaria issues. But not much else other than that Bulgaria is pretty strongly supporting Greece in its criticism of Mickoski, which still comes strange to me, like we're still like kin and the Greeks have always been the enemy, but Bulgaria at this moment is joining, even though they haven't been at least in the oath of office or in anything that Mickoski has done, haven't been directly, like he has not said that he is not stopping like the work of the historic commission or something like that, but his general comments during the elections that he's not accepting the Bulgarian demands are the reason for this, and Bulgaria is joining Greece to criticize and attack the government, and we'll see soon like how Mickoski does with Mitsotakis and whoever represents Bulgaria in Washington. This will be their first confrontation, so we'll see how that works out.
No, but I want to go back to the census you mentioned in Albania. The Greeks have also told the Albanian government that their path to the EU is going to be blocked as well if they don't correctly count the quote-unquote Greeks in Albania. I think I got that right. Yes.
Yeah.
So, which is, fine. The Greeks really started this with Macedonia 30 years ago and let everybody block everybody else and let the whole place descend into chaos if that's the way the EU foreign policy apparatus and aided and abetted by the State Department, if that's their view, if they think that's fine, then let it all descend into chaos. I don't care. But
the worse
you know,
it gets for NATO, the better, honestly. The Greeks are blocking Albania from joining the EU. Formally now they have a veto, because Albania arrested the Greek mayor of the largest Greek city in Albania, Himara, on some corruption charge, I don't know what. So the Greeks are trying to have him elected. I think they got him elected as member of the European Parliament, and they're formally blocking Albania's EU accession talks because of this issue. So now Albania is not blocked just because of being like in a group with us, but they have a veto of their own. But this is like mirror opposite to what SDSM were doing. So SDSM arrested the Macedonian mayor in Albania, and blow up all our efforts to like help Macedonians there, strengthen their Macedonian identity and open the door for Bulgaria. While Greece is doing the exact opposite. They're blocking Albania because Albania arrested their mayor of Himara.
Well, let's turn real quick to the new citizen leader, Miko Filipce. So he was the former health minister, responsible. He oversaw the disastrous fire in Tetovo that killed, I believe, 14 people in a hospital. And favorite of the former Prime Minister Zoran Zaev and his cousin. What's his cousin's name?
Oh, brother, you mean Vice Zaev.
Brother, yeah. So he's
cousin
the new. Right, yeah. So Venko Filipce is the new leader of Citizen. There was it was June 30, I think. So last week was the party congress, and I think 9,000 members out of 80 some odd thousand voted in total. Not for him, but in total for the various candidates. And so
I think it
doesn't
was
have
11
a lot of
in total. It was 2,000 for the opposing candidate, Jovan Despotovski, who comes from the Skopje wing, close to Radmila Shekerinska and the diplomats, and Filipce was seen as the Zaev wing. So he got like 9,000, and Venko Filipce, and Despotovski got like 2,000, 2,500.
And the former defense minister dropped out of the race and then criticized the whole process and situation, saying that Venko really didn't have any legitimacy within the party. What's he going to do?
I mean, I don't know what much he can do. He's not garnering much enthusiasm, even though SDSM invested super heavily in him over COVID, like a competent hand, like cool, calm, collected in a huge crisis. By the way, he's like a neurosurgeon, so he's always inserting like footage of him operating on some kid, or like he would receive patients during campaign events, during the general elections. He would have voters come to him with X-rays, scans, and MRIs, and he would like read them while Zaev was talking, or or after the stump speech. So all on theory, all working well, but in practice, he was badly undermined by corruption allegations. He's including in purchasing COVID vaccines. We were not able to secure COVID vaccines in time, even though we are EU candidate, NATO member. We had to rely on Serbia for this. In the end, he was attacked by IRL, which was kind of strange. Like, this is an outlet very close to the US Embassy. The outlet had a huge fight with Kucha and Yusuf, Zoran Zaev's deputy prime minister, whose company was given the contract to build this hospital that burned down with loss of 14 patients and their relatives in Tetovo, this horrific fire, which came on Macedonia's 30th independence anniversary, as Zaev was organizing a parade in Skopje of ambulances and fire trucks and I think some weaponry, which is now has since been destroyed in Ukraine. So it was very symbolic, very horrible tragedy. And Yusuf built this hospital out of obviously flammable materials, Filipče was accused of the way it was built, not asking for proper materials to be used. And then Irala, who got into fight with Andjušev, they launched an attack on Filipče just before the vote.
Mm-hmm.
And the attack was that he had hired Andjušev's company to build a solar plant near Doiran, which is jointly owned by Filipče and Vice Zaev, Zaev's brother. So it's owned by the healthcare minister and the brother of the prime minister, and it was built by the company of the deputy prime minister. So was this an attack on, more an attack on Andjušev because he got the contract to build this this plant after, build this solar plant for the benefit of the same healthcare minister who gave him this large contract to build hospitals, which ended horribly bad. So obvious corruption, like huge, ridiculous level of corruption. But it was an attack on Andjušev, but obviously also very much an attack on Filipče just before he was elected. So a very interesting signal from a pro-US embassy outlet on the new leader of SDSM. And, he's like giving some comments now. SDSM are taking Mickoski, well, why are you going to the NATO summit if you did not agree with the name change, which helped us join NATO? You wouldn't have had a summit to go to if it wasn't for us. It's not doing much for them. Obviously, VMRO will not lose an opportunity to advance Macedonian national interests in NATO now that VMRO has veto power in NATO, which is a very different thing than SDSM having veto power in NATO. We'll see.
Good point.
How long and how well they use it. Mickoski immediately posted a picture of meeting with Richard Grenell. So that was very interesting.
Well, yeah, and I saw our mutual Twitter friend from the Netherlands, Renier, what's his name?
Yeah.
Immediately says that this is a worrying signal, a dystopian, authoritarian, totalitarian. Of course, he's a far leftist himself, so yeah, it is interesting. But that's the natural affinity of VMRO is with the right and conservatives, and Richard Grenell is close to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump, right now, as of today, is going to be the next president of the United States. If everything
Unless
else being
he gets
equal.
arrested, which says a lot about authoritarianism and the direction it's coming from.
Yeah, he's not going to be arrested, number one. And the sentencing in the sham of a New York trial, Alvin Bragg, is not until it's been moved from this week. It was supposed to be this week. It's been moved to September 18, and it'll probably get changed again. So,
yeah.
But that's interesting about a good analysis on Vinko. And their local elections are next year in Macedonia, correct?
Yeah, in spring.
Okay.
And Vinko's term in office is only until March, I think, because he's actually serving out Zaev's term. They made it so that Zaev's original term is uninterrupted, but it was taken over by Kovacevski first and now by Filipče second. So they're splitting Zaev's term.
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay. Okay, so, and then you've got, Citizen's got a lot of work to do. They're just so loaded with corruption in the past and the name change and everything else. And of course, they're caving to Ali Ahmeti. And you alluded to Ali Ahmeti just at the beginning, at the top of the podcast. And as you said, he's out. And where's Artan Grubi? Is he in Macedonia or has he fled the country?
Been seen. There were some rumors that he was not allowed to an American visa, that he's relocating to Albania, that Zaev is relocating to the Middle East where he has some business contracts. Gruevski called him out on this. He said he's building stuff, I think, in Tajikistan and Dubai. So that's where he is moving his money. So there's a lot of speculation here that the leaders of the previous government are in flight. Alexander Nikolovsky, who was named deputy prime minister and transportation minister, not interior or foreign, as was announced. He's the one usually reminding everybody that there will be accountability and soon. This thing with the judges was a setback, but it's so practically the prosecution is still in ISDSM hands, and the judges as well, but they're not. They're weathervane. They will. I don't think they will go down with ISDSM, and the Interior Ministry can now collect evidence and submit it to the prosecutors in a much more forceful way than VMRO would submit, like a proposal for a investigation against Vice Zaev, Zoran Zaev while they were in the opposition, and they were ignored. But the prosecutors can't just ignore the Interior Ministry and the Tax Authority and the Financial Police and all these other instruments which are now in VMRO control. So they can submit pretty serious charges, and then there the prosecutors and the judges sit on them, and so yeah, it's coming.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's here we are. July 15 is a week from today, which is it's the middle of the 3-month summer holiday. A lot of people, especially in Europe, go on holiday in July, August. U.S. Congress goes on holiday for the entire month of August. The country is better off then. We've got the crazy presidential elections going on here. I mentioned the NATO summit. The British and the French elections have just finished up. Republican National Convention is next week. We have the Olympics, the Euro Cup, and Wimbledon all going on or just concluding this month and next month. And probably a bunch of things I'm not even thinking about right now. So it seems weirdly quiet and yet weirdly chaotic all at the same time. I don't know if it feels like that with you. Plus, it's hotter than bloody hell. I know you before we started recording, you said it was hot there. Define hot for me. I mean, I lived in Macedonia for 7 summers, and I go there every summer, so I know what you think is hot is. But
yeah. It's 35, 34 degrees, and
that's
maybe I'm getting older, so I'm not handling it as well as I used to.
It'll be 44 here today. That's 111 Fahrenheit. I was in Estonia for a couple of weeks in Latvia, and my Estonian friends said that anything above 23 or 24 to them is hot.
Yeah, people are now talking about this might be really climate change, but again, it's people my generation, so we are getting older, and I don't see the little ones complaining as much. But yeah, we are now investing in green energy, and we'll cut our coal production and our greenhouse gas emissions. So yeah, mostly because this is the only thing we can now build with, as we're now facing a shortage of workers, as everybody has either moved out or is working in a Gruevski-built factories. So we can just do solar and wind, which will hire very, very few people, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, actually, as I was again talking with some of my Estonian friends about, it's the answer is nuclear energy.
Sure. Yeah.
And SMR, small modular reactors. That's what's necessary. Greta Thunberg be damned. So.
But if you let Andrushev build one, so.
We'll see. All right. Well, let's leave it at that. It's been a couple of weeks. I know we've all been kind of traveling and on vacation or whatnot. I think we've given that's a good read, a good wrap on where things are. We'll check in after the NATO summit and maybe the Republican convention and things like that, and see where we are on that and how that affects Macedonia and how the government is continuing to do. I mean, like I said, it's only been 2 weeks, so and this arbitrary idea of the first 100 days, I think that's an American invention, and it seems to have gone around the world as so many other things American do. But it's arbitrary and it's really kind of stupid. You can't do anything in 100 days except just find out where the office is and where the keys to the drawers are and things like that. So.
Well, these guys came prepared, actually. They were, as you said, negotiating deals already from the opposition.
Yeah.
We've been in power for like 11 years under Nicola, so we had the people ready, trained, rested, ready, and so forth. So it's not been like complete chaos. There were some sabotages in the government, like minor petty stuff, like hiding documents and paper clips. But yeah, they're pretty prepared. It's just is like the big name things and stuff we can't predict how now let's see how the embassy will respond to the Grinnell meeting, or maybe even more than the Mitsotakis meeting. So these are the things that we're still not sure, and I don't think they were sure either. Like, Gordana came very strongly on the name issue, and then she backed down. She's now not using Macedonia. She's using the emoji on Twitter. So obviously the blob got to her. Now, obviously once Biden is out and whoever replaces him, if it's Republican, probably will obviously tell them, like, tell the Greeks and just to stuff it. But at the moment, it's we still don't know what they'll do, what they're capable of doing to us, and what they intend to do to us at this time.
All right. Well, we will continue to follow that. We'll see, and let's check back in a week or two and go from there.
Absolutely. Take care,
All right.
buddy.
Great talking to you. Yep. Take care.
You too. Bye.